Thank you. And yeah, welcome everyone. It's great to see the Talking Heads seminar series restart. And I love these because I think it's a fantastic opportunity for everybody in the Institute or externally to actually see what's going on in the Institute and what people are doing research-wise. We obviously have the webinar series, which is different. That's about a wider discussion about social work and social care issues, but this is about the research that people in the Institute are undertaking and introducing everyone to talking about that, and for students and for external people to also see and understand what we actually are doing in here and the sorts of research we're undertaking. And that research activity is really growing and really gaining pace. So we have more and more research active staff who are active external from the university on externally funded research projects, people who are working on research projects with the community. For example, Mahuya and I are involved on our second or third, I think, of those now. And that's with Telford and Wrekin. And one of the earlier seminar series was with one of the young peer researchers that we did some peer research with, and she came along and presented to that one. So there's a whole different range of ways that our research works with or external to university. There are a lot of people in the Institute who are also undertaking PhDs. I think just one of those people is on the call today. They will also be presenting the research they are doing, and that will be something for people to understand more about what people are doing in the Institute and how it impacts practice and how they can link with one another and share that. We now have our own ethics committee within the Institute, and that's chaired by Mahuya and myself. And again, that will make a big difference because it gives us the opportunity to really begin to grow the research we're doing, and again, to know more about it and share. Gives people the opportunity to be part of an ethics committee and to actually, that's really good CV building skill. And it's also, we've been asked by external partners if we would be able to manage some of their ethics queries for them. So again, it really helps to create that external linkage and focus and partnerships for us. We also have PhD studentship call that went out, and we have applicants for that, and I looked at those yesterday. We've got some really interesting applications, and I think again that very much fits with just looking at the diversity of the people on the screen. The diversity of applications we have is really interesting and reflects the community around us, and that's something that I hope that we will continue to do in our research. So over to Nazanin, who is a new member of staff, who's going to talk about this research that I'm really interested to hear about. And thank you, Mahuya, for leading and chairing these.
Many thanks. Thank you so much. Let me to share my PowerPoint first. Yes, before I start talking about my PhD research, I would like to say hello to everyone and thank you so much for attending today's seminar. And I special thank to Dr. Mahuya and Professor Elaine for inviting me to sharing my PhD experience. Honestly, cardiovascular disease is leading cause of death across the globe. Obesity and psychological problems such as depression are sample of 9 risk factors that contribute to the risk of an individual developing CVD. The specific impact of weight loss and weight cycling on cardiovascular disease is less clear. Conventional weight loss program advises following a diet planning, calorie counting, and weight loss is the main goal. Short-term weight loss in obesity treatment cannot be converted into a long-term success. Usually there is a return to same weight. The weight loss techniques such as dieting and restraining food intake leads to increased craving for food, concern with food and body weight, fluctuation in body weight, and binge eating made a weight cycling. Some studies suggest that weight cycling may increase the risk for certain health problems. This includes high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and gallbladder disease. One study showed that women who weight cycle gain more weight over time than women who do not weight cycle. Binge eating was also linked to women who weight cycle. The same study showed that women who weight cycle were also less likely to use physical activity to control their weight. So Health Not Weight Loss Focus program is shift from weight center approach to health center approach to weight management. It supports a holistic view of health, encouraging self-acceptance and self-esteem. It focuses on healthy lifestyle through behavioral change in terms of food choice, enjoyable physical activity, and strategies to improve mental well-being regardless of whether weight loss is achieved or not. The underlying of this concept comes from the feminist movement of 1970s. These studies conducted about Health Not Weight Loss Focus program compared to conventional weight loss program. The studies about HNWL have been small, but suggest that this approach may have beneficial impact on risk factors for cardiovascular disease, such as lipid profile, blood pressure, and blood lipids. In addition, psychosocial outcomes and mental well-being are improved. Therefore, the potential for this approach result cannot be ignored. And raised question was, are there difference in cardiovascular risk outcomes between Health Not Weight Loss Focus programs and conventional weight loss programs? And the objective of this review was to carry out a comprehensive systematic review with meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials comparing the effect of HNWL programs with those of CWL programs on cardiovascular risk factors in adults with BMI greater than 25 kg per square meter. For doing this review, first, we define a search strategy using keywords, and then systematically searching 6 databases, such as Central and Cochrane Register of Studies Online, Medline, Embase, PsychoInfo, CineHall, and ASIA, and related website plus hand searching of relevant review studies and included studies references list. To identify potentially relevant studies, we applied inclusion-exclusion criteria. For example, we included only randomized controlled trial studies, those studies which has only more than 2 months follow-up, articles publicated after 1970s, and participant BMI more than 25, participants age more than 18, and contain programs that focuses in health irrespective of weight loss and contains control of conventional weight loss programs and included at least one outcome of interest. However, when we checking the included studies, for intervention, we had an inclusion-exclusion criteria. We need to make sure, for example, those HNWL programs following these criteria in their program as well or not, or those special CWL program following exactly these criteria or not. For example, some program following the very low calorie diet program, which participants have to losing weight more than 1 kilogram per week, and that's why we excluded those studies. Meta-analysis, for this meta-analysis, we included primary and secondary data from all of these studies and pulled them out in RevMan, special software which we call RevMan from Cochrane. Outcome measures were based on 7 of the 9 main risk factors for cardiovascular disease. Trial required at least one of these outcomes measures to be eligible. The 7 risk factors chosen were those most typically measured as a part of weight management interventions and excluded the assessment of change in the prevalence of smoking and diabetes. Included studies had a minimum follow-up period of 2 months after the end of treatment, and primary outcome included blood lipid, included total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, and total cholesterol HDL ratio, and blood pressure and body weight. And for secondary outcomes, it was included diet, physical activity, alcohol intake, psychological well-being, and adverse events. Data extraction included, characterized, included, and excluded studies, and assesses included studies bias. And at the end, we trying to do meta-analysis. Primary and secondary data from all of the studies were put in a meta-analysis, and the Cochrane RevMan software package used to undertake these meta-analysis. In meta-analysis, heterogeneity refers to the evaluation of the outcome of included studies with dissimilar data criteria. For example, different population size or interventions, variability of study design, and risk of bias. For this study, heterogeneity does not allow for results to be measured statistically. A subgroup and sensitivity analysis were applied. Which for this subgroup and sensitivity analysis, because of the high level of heterogeneity, we applied for that because we had a varied length of studies, follow-up state. We addressed this by reporting result as a 4-phase subgroup analysis for enhanced program, and sensitivity analysis conducted on studies with high risk of bias due to greater attrition rate and omission of ITT. And subgroup analysis based on length used to analysis heterogeneity, and sensitivity analysis were used for include studies with high risk of bias. You can see a Prisma diagram report in this slide, which shows 17,216 potential studies were identified from the relevant databases. Finally, 110 studies identified potentially relevant. Two authors independently assessed these studies according to the eligibility criteria. 98 articles were excluded at this stage, and in 10 articles, the intervention did not have a control group, and in 15, the control was not conventional weight loss program. In 49 articles, the intervention did not follow HNWL philosophy because it promotes an energy-restricted diet. 12 studies were excluded because there was no randomized reported, and 9 studies were excluded because participants with a BMI under 25 were not excluded, and 2 studies excluded because they were protocol in their recruitment files, and 1 study was excluded because the duration was less than 2 months. And finally, 9 articles were excluded because they were duplicated. All full text review resulted in 12 articles. These 12 articles fully evaluated, which from this amount, 8 articles selected as a relevant final included studies. We use a fixed effect model to pull out our result where there was significant heterogeneity that prevent this. We carried out subgroup and sensitive analysis. The subgroup analysis was based on length of the follow-up period and any enhanced programs, and sensitivity analysis was used to exclude studies with a high risk of bias. You can see this example in this slide of two of those studies, which was enhanced studies, because one of the study following the participant of prescribed 1,800 calorie per day for the first 2 weeks, following the specific, calorie counting diet in their programs, and the other studies, participants receive an intervention in 3 files before they follow up the HNWL program. So because of these 2 enhanced programs, we applied subgroup analysis. You can see summary of finding table here, which shows improvement in total cholesterol, HDL ratio, and weight loss in favor in HNW program compared to CWL program in long term, whereas you can see improvement in systolic and diastolic blood pressure favored CWL programs, and this difference did not reach statistical significance. Statistically significant improvements in body satisfaction and restrained eating behavior favored in HNWL over CWL program. The mean weight loss across participants was greater in the conventional weight loss program compared to the HNWL program at the end of treatment in the short term and during the follow-up period weeks of 20 to 39 and 40 to 52 weeks. And at the latest follow-up, which is weeks 53 to 104, you can see improvement in weight were in favor of the HNWL programs, and these contained significant heterogeneity, which was dealt with by firstly a sub-analysis excluding data from group using enhanced program. As a conclusion, the effects of HNWL programs compared to CWL programs show no long-term significant difference in blood lipid, hypertension, and weight loss. This is consistent with previous systematic reviews. However, losses to follow-up in some studies were high, and the estimated resulting from meta-analysis were often imprecise. HNWL programs were slightly better at long-term improvement in disorder eating behavior and body satisfaction, but results were often drawn from a single study. Therefore, large, long-term, high-quality randomized control trials are now needed to confirm or finding before firm clinical recommendation can be made regarding to the comparative and advantage of this program. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find all of references here. And if you have any question, you can email me. I can provide you, sorry, I should provide you in last slide, but I can provide you by help of Dr. Mahuya. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nazanin. I have loads of questions for you, but I would ask others to start because I don't want to bombard with you my question. So yeah, any one of you want to ask any question? Please. Because there is nothing on chat. I checked. I will check again now.
Thank you.
So yeah, please unmute yourself if you want to ask any question to Nazanin.
Lioness has got her hand up.
Yeah. I was just looking for chat.
Thank you very much for presenting this very insightful research. I'm not a researcher by profession, but I just wanted to find out, I don't know whether it's going to make sense, my question, but just bear with me. Obviously, you did mention in your presentation that some of the random samplings were excluded. And what was the rationale behind it? But at the same time, in terms of the validity and the reliability of that research, did you find that maybe data verification was problematic because some of the methods were excluded, or what was your experience?
Hi, Lynette. It's nice to see you here. Yes, I'm not sure I understand your question very well, but I can explain about the inclusion-exclusion criteria. We excluded studies based on our inclusion-exclusion criteria first. For example, we designed this inclusion-exclusion criteria based on PICO, based on participant, intervention, and outcomes. and participant, intervention, comparison group, and outcomes. And if those studies don't match with, based on these inclusion criteria, we will exclude them.
Is it more of participants led in terms of the methods employed?
First of all, yes. And then when we selected those studies which matched based on our inclusion exclusion criteria, then we assessing risk of bias of those studies, okay, which we following the specific criteria to assessing the risk, these risk of bias. And except of these, we will assessing quality of these studies as well. When we, for example, when we reporting these studies result, for example, we say that a study shows lose weight in HNWL program more happen than CWL program, but we need to mention this quality of this study is high or low. So we have a specific criteria to assessing quality of this study as well. We have a specific tools, for example, grade profiler from Cochrane will be useful for this assessing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So can I jump in?
Yes.
Yeah, is that right, Mahuya?
Yes,
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
After you, I will go to
Okay.
Mac then. Yeah.
I was just going to, sorry, Mac.
It's all right.
I hadn't realised your hand was up. I was just jumping in. Sorry, on the back of Linus's question then, so can you give us some examples, Nazanin? So in terms of your PICO criteria, so in terms of your participants, which sorts of participants did you include and which sort did you did you not include? And in terms of your Cochrane, so that's one question. And then, so can you make it specific for us? And then in terms of my other question, one of the criticisms, obviously, of Cochrane methods is that they are skewed towards particular forms of quantitative methodologies and skew against qualitative methodologies. And how did you address that? Or did you simply apply the Cochrane methods and assume that as a correct methodology?
Okay, sure. Thank you so much. Yes. For example, for participant specific for these studies, we selected only participant, for example, have a BMI more than 25 kilogram on M2. So any participant lower than these, we excluded. Okay, or we only accepted adult, or we only accepted, except of obesity, healthy participant, no any problem, for example, heart problem or a specific problem. We mentioned all of these criteria as a inclusion exclusion criteria. And the other things regarding the qualitative and quantitative, we using meta-analysis specific for quantitative data, for quantitative systematic review. So this study was quantitative and data was numeric studies. Data, yes, thank you.
Thanks, Nazanin. Mac, you wanted to ask some questions to Nazanin.
Thank you, Nahia. Only one little question. Nazanin, in your conclusion, you said that the HNWL is a potential alternative to improve behaviours in relation to disordered eating compared to the CW programmes. So has your research had an impact on people with eating disorders? And if so, how?
To be honest, it wasn't my research, but those research shows this program has impact on disorder eating.
Right, okay.
Compared with conventional weight loss programs. Those participants which carried HNW program compared with those participants carried CWL programs have more improvement, significant improvement on disordered eating.
Okay.
Yes.
That's positive. That's good. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nahia.
Thank you.
What's disordered eating?
Wow.
Conditions like bulimia, aren't they? And I can't. There's another one.
No, but it's just Nazanin said they excluded people who run well.
Yes.
So that's why I'm just wondering if you excluded people who are unwell, but it has an impact on disordered eating. I would consider disordered eating probably making you unwell or being an illness. So I just wondered.
I suspect that eating a tonic snowball for breakfast is disordered eating, which is what I did this morning.
or maybe constant snacking on chocolate buttons.
Well, I was just going to change. I've changed from buttons to dairy milk, fruit and milk.
Like what was defined as disordered eating, Nazanin? Was it defined?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, that's an interesting question, Elaine.
Yes, yeah. I think I think in that stage we excluded a specific illnesses participant physically. You know, which participant has a physically illnesses, not. I don't know really. I'm not sure about the excluded studies about which illnesses, but I'm sure not included disordered eating.
Well, you included people with a BMI of 25?
Yes, more than 25.
More than 25.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay. Just interesting. Sorry.
Yes. Susie wanted to ask a question, or?
No, I don't have any questions, Mahima. So.
Okay, that's fine.
It's just reflecting on a disordered eating.
Yes, if you want a disordered eating subject to study, I'm available.
You are not. Nazanin, I will ask you some of my questions. First of all, you had like 17,000 of your studies and you ended up with 8 final study. So how long, it's just a basic question, how long it took you to look at those criteria and then ended up with 8?
Yes, this is a very good question. Absolutely, it took a long time. However, we're using specific tools which help us for this checking. For example, EndNote tools would be very helpful when we searching each databases based on a specific key terms. Definitely, we will have some similar articles from some different databases. When we put all of these articles on EndNote, through these tools, we can exclude the duplicated, and from that tools, we will have some, for example, from 17,000 articles at the end, maybe we will have 7,000 articles or 8,000 articles. And based on that, screening will be a start. And yes, you're right, it would be very difficult, but I had a timing for that. Normally, 500 to 600 type an abstract I was checking each day.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of checking duplication or including or sort of rejecting some of the articles, so are you looking at the keywords articles have used, how you were rejecting on the, even you were using EndNote? Because I'm asking this question, if we advise our students to go,
not really. EndNote will help you to manage and keep these articles, not help you for screening at all.
Okay.
You just keep all of these articles in same place and help you to remove duplicated. But at the end, you will have your final articles, but this is your job to check title and abstract based on inclusion-exclusion criteria. But in first stage, which is a screening and just check title and abstract, would be very quick. As I said, normally I check 500, 600 title and abstract each day based on inclusion and exclusion criteria. And the next stage will be more take time because you need to check full text of articles.
Yeah, and which shows the importance of abstract, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we actually advise students to read abstract first, don't read entire article. I mean, they sometimes think that I am actually telling lie, but it shows that your method and this reading abstract is so important even in your research method.
Exactly. Even sometimes by check the title, you exclude that articles because it's not randomized control trial or it's not those participants include that study. And first time you read that title, you exclude that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I think that does both your title and then, but then particularly your abstracts. It shows the importance of getting that right and all of the key elements, both of what you're looking for, what you find, and what you're concluding in that abstract.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And my last comment is not a question, it's your advice. If our students want to do similar kind of research, so what skills they would need, or is there any software they need to learn? It's what do you suggest for them?
Yes, the first things which is very, very helpful, they know how to design key terms to searching on databases, and they know how to select relevant databases and access to those databases. For example, I had students from here, they don't know how to access to those databases at all. So they know how to design key terms based on PICO, based on their research question, and they know how to access to those relevant databases. Based on these two, they can find the relevant articles, and based on inclusion-exclusion criteria, they can select the final included studies.
Yeah, so thank you, Nazanin. Actually, Rachel wanted to ask you same question. Sorry, Rachel, I didn't see your comments first. What advice you might give to students who may want to replicate your research method, and what the challenges they might face, and any tips? That's Rachel wanted to know from you.
Yes, I think it would be good if they are clear about what is the difference between literature review section and literature review research. What is the difference between literature review section and systematic review research? If they know difference between these two, they know what they need to do for their research. For example, if the students want to do systematic review research in the literature review section of their dissertation, they need to provide information about the previous similar systematic review research, not the previous randomized control trial studies. They need to mention what the previous systematic review studies done, what those studies effectiveness and weaknesses, and what those studies gap, and why they want to do these studies again.
Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Nazanin.
Thank you.
Susie, you raised your hand.
Yeah, so Nazanin, I was just thinking about when you're doing the research, or searching for the studies. how do you record, how do you sort of map what you've done? Because you're obviously doing lots and lots of searches on different databases, on different terms. How do you sort of know which, how are you sort of recording, how do you sort of approach that?
Yes, for example, if you're using databases such as EBSCO and you have an account in there, such as login, you can save each time you're searching in there with time and which key terms, what about the result, and even you can run again with similar key terms. And even except of this, you can have a hand note and record each time you're searching which databases and how many results, how many articles, and keep it. This is very important. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there any other question anybody wants to raise or
Please could I ask, Mahia? Nazanin, just thinking about the research that's been carried out, obviously cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death across the globe. But then the conclusion of this piece of research is that it's health, not weight loss, and it's the health programs that are growing in popularity in order to reduce the cardiovascular risk factors. Am I right?
The final result shows a slightly effect on weight loss, but not significant, but significantly effect on disorder eating.
Right. Okay.
I think this is a very good opportunity for me to tell this, because after I finished my PhD and this research, because it was the first meta-analysis in this field in the world, and I even done a cross-sectional survey about the perception of this approach, but not in large participant. But the result shows the people will accept it, and I prepared and wrote a proposal to do a proper randomized control trial study about this program in the UK. So I would be very thankful if I could get any help to apply for funding to run this randomized control trial here in UK.
Yeah, we can talk about that later, Nazanin. But thank you so much for sharing your research, and especially for thanks goes to everyone for this fantastic discussion, and which shows the importance of this kind of seminar. And certainly, Nazanin, your research induced this discussion. So we were all sort of waiting for ask this question, and it's really a fantastic platform to not only share our ideas but to improve our research knowledge as well. So thank you, Nazanin, and thank you everyone.
Thank you, anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nazanin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Everybody's so excited to get in talking about research methods, which is actually really hard to get people often to understand why research methods are exciting and interesting, but I think it showed that how everyone found it that way. Yeah. No, thank you.
Thanks for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to mention before we all leave, it's the next seminar would be on 25th of November. That's a Thursday, and 1 till 2 p.m. And we will send you the registration link. And I will wait for 25th.
Mahia, is it Sandra Shaw, the next one?
Christina,
no, Christina.
And what's she talking about?
Christina's research topic, I just need to check.
Presumably community development, is it?
It's certainly community. Just let me check her.
And very timely given the validation event yesterday for the community development and youth work degree.
Yeah, absolutely. helping people navigate the system or change the system, a comparative analysis of asset-based and right-based approaches in Scotland. That's the title of seminar presentation. Christina will be presenting that. So yeah, please
and a
join
different
us.
methodological approach.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you all.
Thank
Thanks everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.